episode of DJ's Garage. On today's episode, we're going to be working on a Chevy Cruse. What year is it?
It's a 2012.
2012 Chevy Cruse. It's my buddy Jacob's. It needs a new oil pan. Once we take it off, you'll see exactly why it needs a new one. I haven't seen anything like that. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No.
I was getting under it to jack it up, and I was like, holy crap. What is that madness? So yeah, actually, I'll just show you guys, because it is some what in the trailer park is going on here kind of stuff.
Something special.
Take a gander at that. That's RTV Sealant, JB Weld, some other kind of weird
See the bubble gum back there on the back.
Yeah, some bubble gum in there. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish there, but that's not gonna do it. So yeah, we got the brand new one, and we're gonna get her changed. So I'll get you guys set up. I'll show you later. Over here, can you see good? Can you guys see? Can they see? Yeah, you can see. Okay, so I'm gonna grab some tools, and I'll bring you guys back when I get everything. Okay, guys, so we finally got it out of there. I want you guys to take a look at that. That is something crazy. Like, that is so much RTV sealant. And that hole, I could put my pinky in it. And that was all just JB Weld. I chipped it all off. So yeah, just buy yourself a new one. I mean, they're not cheap, but they're not expensive either. I mean, that was $60. But the amount of money you're going to spend in oil, because obviously you're going to leak oil, and the amount of money you spend on RTV sealant and JB Weld, I don't know, within, I would say 2 weeks, you will have paid the cost for one of those in oil and the materials to do that. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me. Let's let this semi go by. Oh, there's a look at the car. It's 2012 Chevy Cruse. It's got a little bit of deer damage in the front end. The owner's going to buy, well, Jacob, you guys saw Jacob. He's going to buy a new bumper, and I don't know whether he's going to want me to fix the hood and repaint it, or whether or not he's going to just buy a new hood as well. But as far as front end damage, that's it. It's just the bumper and the hood. And the driver's side fender's got a pretty good dinger in it. Right there. But there's just a scuff down the door and a scuff on that door. And then the quarter panel's got a scuff on it. But nothing is dented very badly. So, a little bit of body work. We can fix all of that, but the fender's pretty well crap. Need a new one of those. But everything else, with a little bit of body work and a paint job, it'll look good. And for a $1,500 2012, this isn't that bad for $60 to fix the engine issue. And I don't know, I would say front bumper's probably 100, 120, because it's just the cover. Everything behind it, like the rebar behind it, it's in good shape. It didn't deploy any airbags. The hood's probably 150. I mean, everything for cars is pretty cheap as far as body panels are concerned. So, I don't know, I'd say probably another $500 in body components. And at the end of the day, he'll have a couple $1,000 car that he's got probably $2,000 in. I mean, if he decided to flip it after he was done working on it, he would definitely make a profit. But anyway, that's enough about that. Onto this oil pan. Now, on these 1.4 liters, the oil pan doesn't actually have a gasket. It is actually put together from the factory with RTV sealant. This is the factory oil pan, and you can see the RTV sealant on it. We actually called the dealership, and that's what they said. They were like, look, we don't make an oil pan gasket for the 1.4 liters. It's only the 1.8 liters. And from the factory, all they do is put RTV sealant around it, and that's it. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to put some RTV sealant on this. I'm going to clean the mating surface of the engine, and I'm going to slap her back up there. I had to take the exhaust off. Well, not off, but down. Get you guys over here so you can see. Had to take the exhaust down. If you notice that bottle jack, I had to take the transmission mount loose just to drop the oil pan down. This is a lot bigger job than I expected it to be, really, if I'm being honest. This was kind of a pain in the butt. But we're on the home stretch now. We got the old one out. We just got to clean up the mating surfaces and put some RTV sealant on it, bolt the new one up, let it sit for 24 hours, put some oil in it, make sure we don't have any leaks, bolt the exhaust back up, bolt the transmission back up. Oh, and the crank pulley up front, we had to take it out just to have enough clearance to drop it down, because there's a lip on the front of the oil pan that actually sits inside that that pulley, and it is impossible to get it out without taking that pulley off, in my opinion. So we'll have to bolt that back up, and then we should, oh, and the exhaust in the back, we actually just took the cross member off right there and just let it set down to get it out. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and clean this mating surface and get it prepped and ready for some RTV sealant. Get this thing slapped in there right quick. So I'll try to set you guys up so you can see what I'm doing here. Right there is where the oil pan goes. So I do believe that I've already got all the... No, I don't. Get all the RTV sealant off of it. And then clean up the oil. And then... Oops, sorry guys. Elbow you. But we should be in good shape to go ahead and mate these two surfaces. It's very weird that a vehicle this new would be put together with RTV sealant and not a gasket from the factory. Like, I don't know if it was just a cost savings decision or what, but that is very weird to me for them to do that. Now, I could be wrong, but I find it very odd. Now, it's not necessary to clean this, but I just don't want to drip any oil onto the RTV sealant as I put the new oil pan up here. So I do want as much of it clean as possible. But like I said, it's not necessary. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. He's also having some issues with his turbo on this car, but I would assume, now we found a couple for the we found a line that runs to the waste canister and to the blow-off valve that was to the wastegate and the blow off that was unhooked. So obviously the turbo couldn't spool or release properly. So now that those are hooked up and he's not going to be leaking oil and he's not going to be blowing oil all over the top end of his engine, I would, in my opinion, say that it's going to run much better and the turbo is actually going to do what it's supposed to do. So that's pretty clean. I mean, looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and get you guys set up so you can watch me put RTV sealant on the oil pan. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and put these 3 bolts in the back, because this isn't necessary to seal it. Because all it really is here is a dust shield for your flywheel on your transmission. Now this is the transmission bolt that I had to take out right there, or the transmission mount bolt, because the oil pan sits right here and I was hitting on the manifold and this bolt. So I took this bolt out so I could shift the whole thing over and drop it down out of the back. And then the pulley up here was hitting on the lip. I'll show you guys the lip of the oil pan whenever we come out from under the car. And it's starting to rain, so I'm trying to hurry. So I'm sorry that I'm speaking really quickly and not really getting in depth with anything right now. I'm just trying to quickly get that on there so that we can get this covered up and I can get out of the rain. Because after we get it bolted up, it's going to have to sit for 24 hours for that to cure. That is one thing that you guys need to do if you're going to use RTV sealant to seal anything. Before you try to run it, before you try to run the engine or put oil in it, let that RTV sealant set up. If you don't, the pressure that builds up inside your engine for your, okay, every engine builds pressure. You've got oil pressure, you've got cooling pressure, or your coolant pressure, and obviously you've got your air-fuel compression. So everything inside an engine is under pressure. Under pressure. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, sidetrack. So everything's under pressure. You want to make sure that you give that RTV sealant enough time to set up, because if you don't, that pressure is just going to end up blowing through the mating surfaces and causing a leak. If you let it set up, it's not going to leak. It's not, you're going to be less likely to spring a leak, basically. So let me get this prepped. Okay. Okay, we're gonna get this oil pan in here. Everything's still good.
Should I do the recap for what we done?
Yeah.
Before?
Alright. So, very carefully.
Oh, there you go. Let's go that way. That way.
Are you sure?
Uh-huh. Yeah, you're sitting on a spoolie right here.
Oh no, not under it. Stupid lip. On stupid head. For no reason.
There you go. Hey, before we get too jiggy with it, you think we should drop back down and make sure there's no other sealant on the top?
I already did that.
Okay. Okay.
It should sit there now. It shouldn't move. And then all the little bolts are up on top of the can there in the box. Go on now, get in there. Tell you what, it looks a lot prettier under here with that new Walton fan.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of miss the jibs you weld. You have any extra we can just smear on there?
I mean, yeah.
these 1.4s, they're a pretty big motor. It takes a while to cool down.
Very large displacement on this bad dad. Would you do me a favor?
What color?
Purple.
Okay.
Google the torque spec for the oil pan.
Sure will.
Okay guys, so we got the oil pan on. Now we're taking the oil filter out, which is down there. Now this is one of the paper filters, and the actual oil filter itself is in the top end. So to filter the oil on this engine, it solely relies on the oil pump. It's the same way my Cherokee is, oh no, and there it is. And like I said, it's just a, come out of there, it's just a paper filter. Now, one thing I like to do is just clean up the threads, inspect it. I do it every time I change the oil in my Jeep, just because this is a plastic housing. You want to make sure you're not pulling any threads or tearing it up. And then I inspect this O-ring and make sure there's no gouges or burn marks in it. Make sure everything's in good condition before I put it all back together. And this one looks pretty good. Hey, what brand filter did you get?
CarQuest Premium filter.
All right, so it's a CarQuest filter. Obviously, you can pick whatever brand tickles your fancy, but yeah. So then, note to self: this clippy look inside, whatever you would call that, goes inside there, and it actually locks it in like so. And then you can take your socket. Well, I don't know. I have fat hands because I'm fat, so I don't know if I'll be able to put this in there by hand. The location of it is in a very precarious place. Hey, I got it. Alright, so that's where it is, down in there. You can just see the top of it underneath that hose there. Let's get that oil off of there. And then we'll just tighten her back down, and it's done. So, new oil pan, new oil filter. Oh, stupid thingies don't work.
Next thing I think I'm gonna have to tackle is this redneck engineering monstrosity
Yeah, I
here.
want to show them that too.
Before you get a bunch of comments on it.
I'd like to get a bunch of comments. Nobody ever comments on nothing. Nobody cares. I'm gonna have to edit that out. Alright, now, again, this is just a plastic housing, so you just want to go just over snug. You don't want to over tighten it because you'll either break it, crack it, or split it. So, it's done. Now, I want you guys to take a gander at this madness here. What is happening there? Why? Some random, like, clothes hanger wire and a piece of copper
waterline.
Yeah, I don't know what is happening there, but that is on the to-do list to fix on this ride. So, oh, and the RTV Bandit struck again on the top end of this engine as well. They were very huge fans of RTV sealant, apparently, because that's a lot of RTV sealant. And then the entire intake is coated in RTV sealant as well. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff going on here.
Somebody went through and bought an industrial sized bottle of it and just went crazy.
Yeah.
Just covered the whole car.
So, alright guys, that's going to be it for today. Like I say, I want to let that RTV sealant really set up before I put any oil in it, before we try to start the engine. And then tomorrow we'll put oil in it, make sure it's not leaking. If it's not leaking, we'll get the exhaust put back up. That's that's it. That's all that's left on the bottom end, is just putting the exhaust back on. We've already got the bolts back in the pulley, in the crank pulley back on, and everything's good there. Oil pans torqued down. Transmission mounts also put back on and torqued down. Oil filter's been changed, just need to put oil in it. Yeah, the only thing left to do is to put the exhaust back on, and we can fire it up, and she'll be done. So I'll catch you guys tomorrow, and we'll finish up this video. This is probably going to be a pretty long video. I'll try to condense it down as much as I can. I try to keep my videos under 20 minutes, but this one may not be under 20 minutes, just because of the amount of stuff we had to do to get the oil pan out of it. So, alright guys, thanks. You want to say anything?
I appreciate your help, appreciate your guys' support.
Yep, I appreciate the support too, guys. And as far as the help, man, anytime. This is my forte. This is what I love to do, and this is my biggest hobby. Alright guys, we'll catch you tomorrow. Alright guys, quick update. We're going to go ahead and finish up the Chevy Cruze. We're going to go ahead and put the oil in it. Maybe, if I can get... Go ahead and fill her up, and all we're good. We're using this Mobile One 5W30 just because they had a sale on it, and it also came with a free funnel and drain plug, even though it's only like a 3 or 4 quart drain plug, or drain plug, Jesus, drain pan. Wasn't really big enough for anything, but whatever. Use this funnel just right at the start so we don't spill it everywhere. I don't think they could have given you a smaller funnel either. Alright, we might have enough out of there so we don't spill it everywhere now. And we spilled it everywhere anyway. We are doing nothing but making a giant mess. That's alright. Smell of burn oil never hurts anything. Old Jacob will probably freak out for a minute until I tell him I spilled it, and that's why he smells oil burning. Because I spilled quite a bit of it on that manifold just now. I'll have to let him know so he doesn't freak out, think that it's leaking or something. See if we're registering on the dipstick yet. just barely got it to the bottom. We'll let it drain down a little bit. Plus, we've got the car jacked up still. Yeah, we're showing on the dipstick now. But it's a 4-quart, that's a 5-quart jug. We've put about 3 quarts in it. A little over 3 quarts, so, I mean, it's going to read a little bit low with that in it. I just wanted to see if it was registering yet. Plus, I probably spilled a quarter of a quart right there. Try and get as much off the engine as I can, because it's going to stink. Alright. So we're reading right there, right in the middle. So now that we're reading pretty good, I want to check for leaks. I'll bring you guys with me. We'll look together. See any leaks down there? That's where I spilled all that oil. That sucked. Yeah, you see it leaking right off the exhaust right there? Can you see? Dripping right off the exhaust. Right there. That's because I freaking spilled it all over the manifold like an idiot. But I don't see any other leaks, so that's good. So we'll check the dipstick one more time. Yeah, we're reading pretty good now. Sucks that I spilled it all over the manifold like that. The plus side, though, is it's 1:30 in the afternoon, and he doesn't get off work until 4, so a lot of this will drip off of it. I mean, it's still gonna smoke and stink, but the only leak I see is not actually a leak. It's where I spilled it everywhere. See? Spilled it all down there, and right down inside there is where most of it went, and that's underneath the dust shield for the manifold, so I can't even get to it. Try to dry it up. So that sucks. Just try not to do that if you're doing this yourself. So this tripod set back up. It's kind of being a jerk. We'll put just a little bit more in it, and we'll call it good. We'll let it down. Let everything settle. About 15 minutes or so, we'll come back out, and I'm going to clean up that puddle on the ground where I spilled it everywhere, and we'll be back out to see if it's slowly, like a slow leak or something, or if it's still just right there at the exhaust. Alright, so we're reading just below this line right here, right in the middle, so we should be in good shape, just because the car is angled like this. So once it's let down and it levels out, it should raise up on the dipstick a little bit. Depending on the orientation of the dipstick, the front end being elevated may not make a difference, since it's a side-mounted engine, but I'm not 100% sure. So we're going to let it down and let it sit for a little while, and come back to it and see if there's any change. So I got to jack it up, get that jack stand out from under it, and then we can let the car down. I like to let everything down nice and slow, just dropping them real hard. It's always hard on the suspension. I mean, there's no sense in dropping them real fast and letting the suspension catch the ball. That's basically the same thing as ramping a vehicle. So, let them down nice and slow. There's no rush. I mean, the work is already done if you're letting the vehicle down off the jack. No point to just drop it. Alright. Now that that's done, we'll check that dipstick one more time. Just because I'm curious. Yeah, it's reading pretty good. Alright guys, and that's the end of it. That's changing the oil pan on a 2012 Chevy Cruze. The only thing I didn't really show was taking the exhaust off and putting the exhaust back on. That's kind of standard for all vehicles. It's kind of the same thing. You just take it loose from the manifold at the donut gasket, and then if it's attached to a cross member like this one was, take the cross member loose and drop the exhaust down out of the way. And if it's not, then all you got to do is unhook it from the bushings, and that's all you got to do there too. So that's it guys. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment. Heck, if you didn't like it, leave a dislike. It's really up to your discretion, but I appreciate it anyway. Alright guys, we'll catch you in the next one.